So I've had a number of people over the years ask me how I make different dishes. Tonight I'm working on a little ratatouille. Uh, I'm not a professional at this, and you're probably going to get better camera work, but I think you'll get the basic idea, okay, if you're interested in making this. So your basic ingredients, of course, eggplant. Um, I have the big Italian mullats, not the long, thin, sweeter Asian eggplant. When I have those, the last time I did those, I actually made a ratatouille, kind of a baked ratatouille, kind of like the one from the Rat movie, the Disney movie. Real pretty, looked beautiful. Personally, I prefer stovetop. It's traditional, it's country. As I recall, Ratatouille's base or origination was French soldiers cooking. That was the vegetables and things that they had available. So you can bake it. I really prefer the stovetop method. The stovetop method takes more time and you have to pay more attention to it because you can't add all the ingredients at once. You have to add whatever's cooking the slowest, you put that in, and then you just keep adding the ingredients and mixing and stirring. So I'll use the Italian style eggplant, the big ones, like the big ones that go smaller, and then squash, zucchini, bell pepper. You can put a little green in, but like the red, yellow, and orange really work best. I have a little green in there, so I'll probably go ahead and throw that in just because it's already cut, and that way I can use it up. Some tomato, garlic, onion. For seasoning, you're going to want quite a bit of olive oil, like a cup's worth. Nice extra virgin. The better the olive oil, the better it is. And from there, I know some people that add oregano and basil, things like that. I kind of prefer a tarragon and rosemary with it. White wine, a nice dry. I use, the box. You can see it back there. Almaden, Chablis. It lasts a long time. You get the small one, and it'll go for a long time. Sadie says hello, by the way. So we're just going to cook it on the stovetop. Now, I've already peeled and cut the eggplant. Don't worry about it turning brown. It's going to be cooked anyway. It doesn't have to be pretty. What we're going to do with this is I'm going to spread it out on a cookie sheet, right? And I'm going to salt it. I'm going to put like a paper towels or brown paper, either way, on the bottom, right? And then you're going to salt it on both sides. When you salt it, you flip it over, and the salt is going to help draw the moisture out of the eggplant. So then you're just going to spread it out, right? Salt it again, and just set it aside. You can even put it in the fridge overnight if you want. It's not really necessary. While that's sitting and it's going to draw the moisture out, then you can do a quick wipe or a rinse. I usually just wipe it off with some fresh paper towels, and that gives it enough salt, usually most of the time, that you really don't have to add more salt to it after the fact. Okay, ratatouille is traditionally served with potatoes, like just boiled potatoes, or I'll do that if I am serving it with other people, right, to make it go a little longer. But generally, I'll just use a nice French bread or a nice Italian loaf, something that'll turn nice and crispy. Serve it warm, So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and spread this out, and then I'll show you again in a second what it looks like. Again, I'm not a pro at this. This is the first time I've ever done one of these. All right, so I've got it spread out on the pan just to show you before I salt it and flip it. Okay, so I've got the paper towel and the eggplant. Now you'll see it's kind of scrunched up, but it's going to give it a little more space when I flip it because all this stuff has room underneath like that, right? So you can already see that the paper towel is pulling some moisture out of it. The salt's really going to help it. Look, y'all, don't get too worked up about this, okay? I mean, if it gets a little too moist, that's fine. You get a little more bread in it, right? If it's a little too dry, you add a little more wine and oil. It's not that big of a deal. Cooking is like life, right? I mean, you learn your biggest lessons, your best lessons by making mistakes, right? Or tweaking and twisting what it is you already know, right? You get this, cook it the way I like it, and then if you go, oh, I'll bet this would be good this way, and to try a different seasoning the next time, not a big deal, okay? Now, I'm using sea salt, right? So that's all that's in here is just rock sea salt. If you already have some ground, or you buy it that way, or you just have Morton's, or whatever it is, you know, it's salt. The idea is that you're drawing the moisture out. The salt will collect the moisture. You know, we're just going to flip everything over here. Push that back a little bit more. Okay, and then I'll salt the other side, set it aside, then I'll shut you off for a little while and chop the rest of the stuff up. All right, again, please forgive me. This is just on my phone. I don't have like a camera stand and all that fancy shit. So this is just me at the house doing something because people have asked me. This is actually one of my favorite dishes. I love, love, love ratatouille since the very first time I made it. Of course, like a lot of you, I actually experienced it the first time after the movie. I had made it before, but I'd never even eaten it because I made it for a restaurant when I was working in the kitchen years ago. So anyway, we're going to let this, I'm going to salt it again on this side. I'm going to let it sit while I'm cutting up the zucchini and the squash and everything else. All right. You'll want to peel the tomatoes. I did almost forget to mention that because tomato skins don't cook up very well. And this is kind of a, I don't want to call it mushy, but there's definitely a different texture that the tomato skins that don't cook well, as I'm sure most of you know, they are really going to stand out if you don't peel the tomatoes. Tomatoes are not that tough to peel. I mean, people make a big deal out of it, but it's actually pretty easy. So you can look that up on Google. Here's just a little interjection, little fun something. A roadside stand. These are not unripe zucchini. These are actually orange zucchini. I've never had it before. I just ate a slice. I think it might be a little sweeter than the green. Just something fun. I don't know. Okay, so zucchini and yellow squash. I cut it roughly an inch thick. The smaller ends I didn't quarter, but you know, did quarter the rest of it. I'll cut the eggplant the same way. If you cut it smaller, it'll cook faster. If you cut it larger, it's going to cook more slowly. You know, it's just whatever way you like it. There's not a science to it. My friend Chef Vincenzo Papano used to say, maybe he still does, baking is a science. Cooking is an art. So just, you know, whatever way you like it. You want bigger pieces, make bigger pieces. It's going to take you a little while longer to cook. You want smaller pieces, make smaller pieces. It's going to cook quicker. This is probably seeming pretty choppy to you because I'm starting and stopping, but a mirepoix of vegetables, carrot, celery, onion. Whenever you wonder, should I put mirepoix in? The answer is yes. It's always going to improve your dish. People eat my chili and they go, oh my God, why are there carrots in here? I say I put a mirepoix in there. They never bitch about the flavor. Put it in soups, put it in sauces if you need to puree it so you can't see it, whatever it is, but it's always going to help the flavors. And the reason is because it's a balance. These three, the sweet, the bitter, and the tart, are always going to balance out the flavors of a dish. That's why you use these. All right, so here we are. I've got everything cut up right now. Show you this stuff. So this is the that pretty orange zucchini I showed you, and yellow squash, the yummy zucchini, tomatoes, carrot and celery, a couple of medium-sized Spanish onions, and bell pepper. That's roughly 3.5 bell pepper right there. I had one already cut up, a green one that I'd started using before. All right, so this is the pan I'm using. You can tell by my hand how big it is. So we're gonna, like I said earlier, we're gonna throw in because everything doesn't cook the same speed, right? If you throw the onions in with the eggplant's gonna be to mush, and the onions still aren't going to be done. So what we're going to do is, this is going to be tough too, because again, I don't really have anything and I'm not set up for this, so it's going to be kind of guesswork for me as to where to put the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Again, though, it's going to take a while to cook, so I'm not going to keep the camera running the whole time. Okay, so we're going to start off with a little olive oil. Let me switch the camera. I'm going to add the carrots, or I'm sorry, the onions in. Oh, just a note. when doing onions, or especially things like garlic, ginger, scallions, the smaller you cut it, the more the flavor is going to work through the whole thing, right? So if you're looking for flavors of, in particular, per bite, as opposed to something that cooks through the whole thing, then you're going to want to cut it like bigger, like sliced garlic or something like that. If you want it to work the flavor all the way through the dish, then you're going to want to really cut it smaller. The smaller you cut it, the less you have to use. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work this until it just sort of caramelizes a little bit. Then I'm going to add the carrots and celery. Then I'm going to add the tomatoes. Then I'm going to add the sausage, or the squashes and eggplant. And after that, I'll throw in the bell pepper last, because we want it to be nice and crisp. But it'll take a while for everything to cook down. Here are my herbs here. I'm using a little dried parsley, some rosemary. This is thyme, and bay leaves, of course. I'm going to probably use like 2 bay leaves and maybe break them into 3 pieces each. And of course, bit of salt and pepper. So just kind of trying to make sure everything's coated with oil here. You can see some of it's already coloring a little, because it's on the bottom. Some of it is, a little skin in there. Too damn bad. Shit happens. Here's part of it that's starting to brown up a little already. So what we're looking for is after it starts to clear, and then it's going to start to just get a little bit of brown. So the first thing we need, I probably should have cut some of these chunks up just a little bit more so they lay flat, but first thing that happens is your onions start to clear a little bit. Okay, right now I'm just using olive oil on this. I'm going to add some butter in a little bit. The trick with using butter, y'all, is you want a nice kind of 50-50 mix of butter and oil. If you use straight butter, it's going to burn really fast, right? You got to really watch your heat on that. But, of course, you love the butter, right? Because it gives that delicious butter flavor. I do not use margarine or shit like that. Use butter. The French say less salt, more butter. You may think it adds calories, but we're getting plenty of calories out of crap food. You might as well cook good food and enjoy it. So everything's pretty soft in here right now. Now you can tell how stuff's getting a little floppy. Right, so the thinner pieces are kind of softening. I'm going to let that cook a little bit more. It'll start to brown just a bit, and that's when we're going to add our carrots and celery. One reason the parts that are browning now is because it just didn't get flipped over. Won't be long now, though. By the way, I've had this old pan. I bought this set of pans at Sam's about 25 years ago. The 9-inch and the 6-inch are beat. I traded those in a long time ago. But everything else is still kind of kicking. I'm due for some new ones, but I spent like $350 on these all those years ago. I can't imagine what it's going to take for me to replace. Okay, so here's a good example. You can see some of the thicker stuff is still sticking, it's still standing pretty stiff, but here we go. You see this? It's starting to clear. You see some of them getting a little clearer in color, and then others are starting to brown. So that's just about what we want, and then we're going to add our carrots and celery. The reason I'm adding these is because that's going to cook the slowest, right? So they're dense. I cut them not real small, but it's not quite chopped, but I didn't leave big chunks either. I want that flavor to work its way through. Plus, you can't beat the beautiful color, that orange from the gorgeous sweet carrots. These are, I get most of my produce from Aldi and from local farmers, I wouldn't say farmers markets, but like those roadside stands. Now you can use ratatouille as just a side dish, if you wish, and you don't have to make near the amount that I make. I like to. I'm busy with the real estate school and everything, so I'm trying to study, and I'm not as smart as I used to be. So I like making bigger dishes that I can nosh on throughout the week. right? Everything's kind of covered up there. Nice, got a little oil on everything. We'll go ahead and add a little more just because, well, it's olive oil. Who cares? By the way, my mother got me these cool cruets. They were that chick that's on TV. I really like these. This one here has grapeseed oil in it. It also has splattered oil all over it. And this I get from Sam's. It's just good with my eggs. I don't have to mess around. Right. I still have the heat pretty high under there. I'm going to be turning it down soon when I add the eggplant, or add the tomatoes and then the eggplant, or the squashes and eggplant. You know, I've seen people put bacon in this, sausage, all kinds of stuff. All right, so again, there are no rules. It's the kind of things that you like. I like the purity of the traditional. Now I'm going to use white wine. I believe that traditionally it was originally a red wine. I've tried it with red wine before, and I didn't like it as much. I liked the clean, fresh flavors of white wine with it. All right, so I just added about a half stick of unsalted butter. I know a lot of people prefer the salted, but I figure if I want salt, I'll add it myself. I don't need somebody else to add it for me. You can see how beautiful this is getting. The onions are getting nice and caramelized. That butter's melting through. The celery and the carrots are starting to cook up. I'm going to go ahead and add these tomatoes. I probably should have just used like one tomato, but they're just so beautiful, and it was so nice chopping on them. I figured I'd go ahead and cut two. I did not peel these tomatoes. I figured it's just me eating it anyway, so I was just being lazy. I think my niece wanted to try some, my niece Kate, she said next time I made some. So, yeah, she'll probably get some. But other than that, it's small town Midwest. There's just not a lot of people want something like this. They're looking for macaroni and cheese, mostly. So, kudos to those of you who like this kind of thing, though, because it's so delicious. People don't know really what they're missing out on. I don't know if I mentioned already, but all of this that I'm making, it looks like a lot, but it's probably going to end up to be about a 4-quart dish, which is my red Tupperware over there. That's probably about what it fills up when it's all said and done. You can see how it's getting more and more liquid. That's not all butter. That's the breakdown now of the tomatoes. They're getting all nice in there. I'm sorry, with this light, the tomatoes look kind of orange. They're not a pretty red. I apologize for crappy lighting. I wonder if I turn my big one on overhead, if it will change anything. Let's see how that does us. Oh, a little bit of change in color. Anyway, these are beautiful tomatoes, big monster beefsteaks I picked up at a place just outside of Edwardsville. It's where I also got those big, beautiful mullet zucchini, the eggplant and the zucchini, the squash. He actually gave me blueberries too because I bought so much stuff from him. Incredibly delicious, giant freaking honeydew. I'm going to change spatulas into a spoon so I can keep that juice moving. So because I've worked in restaurants for so long, I've had access. You know, chefs would buy me different things for some of my utensils, because you can get the stuff they get for restaurants is so much better quality. But a lot of the stuff too, you're able to get on Amazon now, like this and this. Both are like non-melting. They're really, really sturdy, heavy. So you can get some pretty decent stuff on Amazon. One of my favorite things, actually, I didn't even know existed, is this beastie right here. It's made for chopping meat. That's like your ground beef in the pans. You can just get in there and chop it all up. I love this thing. Right, I'm going to set you down to the side so that I can add some seasonings and garlic. Right, I don't know if you can see me or not, or what's going on. You can see the dish though, the pan. So again, a little parsley. Let's just pull the top off there. Right, this is just chopped parsley, dried parsley. It's not a big deal. Of course, this is fresh ground black pepper, so we're going to add a good deal of it. I just filled this thing the other day, so I've not adjusted the coarseness yet. That looks about right. Feels good grinding. Also going to turn the temperature down a little bit. I'm going to go to, well, this is, mine is 1 through 10. I'm going to go to about a 7 right now. I'll probably turn it down a bit more later. Here's a bit of rosemary. I know most folks are really only used to having this in like chicken or rosemary potatoes. I'll use it more in sauces and things like this than the base flavor. For my taste buds, it's just a little tart, a little harsh. Thyme's kind of the same way, cooking it in with other stuff. Again, it's hard to tell you how much to put of these particular things. And again, you might prefer going with, say, oregano, tarragon, parsley, or bay leaves, basil. It just depends on what flavors you like. Hell, it depends on what it is you actually have around the house, if the truth be told. So again, I've got a couple bay leaves here. I'm just going to break them into like maybe 3 pieces if I can get the bay leaf lid back on. Be smarter than the jar, Terry. There we go. John Hall, those of you who know him or knew of him, used to say that to me. Be smarter than whatever it is you're talking about. So I'm adding the bay leaves. We're going to mix that up. And I'm going to show you this in just a second. Oh, this is just... God, I wish you could smell this. That's what we need. Those people at Google can figure out how to get smells through the computer. Oh, God. It smells amazing. I'm going to add a little garlic. Oh, that's a lie. So I'm not going to lie. I am a lazy bastard when it comes to garlic. It's too much work. So that's probably a 1/4 cup of garlic. It's a big dish, so I'm going to use a lot of it. Right now, I am reaching over you to my wine. I'm about due for a fresh box. All right, so I put a little wine in the garlic jar and give it a little shake up. Pour that in there. That's the end of that. That should be enough anyway, and throw that in there. That's trash. All right, so here's what it's looking like so far. And you can see how everything's just cooking down beautifully. It's got that great caramelization going on the vegetables. You can see the herbs mixed through, and still got a good deal of sauce there, moisture, juice. There's going to be a lot more of that when I add the eggplant. I checked via the camera to see if I could pull up what the eggplant looked like, the moisture coming out of it, but before I dabbed it all off, but it just wouldn't show on the camera. Again, this is just my phone. It's not anything fancy, so the S10, it does the job that I need it to most of the time. Let's get rid of this stuff. For those who have not seen it, this is my dad's house, by the way. Look at this beautiful, cool, old, big, giant-ass porcelain sink. I mean, is that just not... I checked it out, and this dude is $6,000 to buy brand new. It would be about $1,500 to have it reporcelained. All right, next up is the squash and zucchini. We're going to go ahead and put that in. I'm going to let that cook down just a little bit. Once there's room for the eggplant, then I'm going to go ahead and start putting it in. Probably it'll take a couple of tries. I'll put the lid on this dude in just a little bit. I'm going to add some more oil and some quite a bit of wine, to be honest. It needs more wine than just what I used. Let me get that out. Nobody wants to see me. There we go. At that, I wish this camera and the light picked up these colors. It's just, and smells so good. Now, this is going to be a long video, but you can fast forward, jump. All right, so I'm going to put a little more oil and then set this thing down and add some more wine. And again, it's olive oil. You're not really going to go wrong with that. Use the extra virgin. The dish to be switching over to freaking canola oil, okay? You can get extra virgin olive oil in big containers at like Sam's and Costco. I get it at Aldi. If you get a large container, make sure that you keep the large container in a dark, cool spot, like your pantry or basement, whatever you have, and put it in cruets that are dark, that the light doesn't get through, because the light can affect your olive oil. You won't be sorry by getting a good olive oil. All right, here we are. We're going to give it a little mix again. I'm going to cover it, and we're going to leave it alone for a while and let these squash cook down just a little bit before we start adding the eggplant. Again, I am leaving the bell pepper until last because I love just crispy, delicious bell pepper. Whatever it is, I just want it a more fresh, crisp in whatever dish it is I'm eating. I don't care what it is. You're just not going to go wrong with not having overly cooked bell pepper, especially green you can cook up, but especially the red, yellow, and orange. So I just kick the heat up just a little bit. You can see the flame up underneath there. All right, we're going to cover this up. I'm going to shut you down for a while, let this cook down, and when it's ready to add some more stuff, I will. Okay, remember I turned the heat up just before I shut you down. We got the lid going here. It's starting to bubble, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat back down to about half. All right, so we're going to go down quite a bit here. All right, now I want this to start simmering. We want those dried seasonings because, to be honest with you, some of them are not brand new. When you have a fresh dry seasoning, then you want to use quite a bit less than you would fresh. But considering that some of mine have been around for a year or two, especially probably that rosemary, I don't go through a whole lot of it. Hell, that might even be around 3 years old. Speaking of 3 years, well, let me finish that thought first. You're going to want to use a little more of it because you want to get that flavor. A lot of the flavor has been lost in it, so I'm putting it through. It's about time I trade that one and a couple other ones that I have in and just dump it out and get fresh. So 3 years, I mentioned a moment ago. We buried Dad 3 years ago. He loved this dish. It was one of my favorites that he enjoyed, or one of his favorites that I made. Really good. I'm going to eat that onion right there is what I'm going to do. Oh my God. Oh, so tasty. Thank you to Tom Jackson, the late Tom Jackson. Vincenzo Pepano, my good friend. I just got to see him a couple weeks ago. Even Dean Faring a little bit. I actually knew him years ago. A few of the other chefs that I've known over the years that have taught me so much about cooking. And damn, I am a good cook now. All right, we're going to let that set. Just to sort of speed things up, I split that up into 2 pans. I can actually turn this one down a little bit. Added the eggplant. And, well, let's face it, I left the restaurant business about 4 months ago, and I just do not stay up as late anymore. It's already past 11. I'm usually looking for bed by 10. I have a busy day tomorrow. So the squash, I just tasted a piece before I split it. It's kind of hot through now, but it is not soft yet. But it's just about the right time where it's going to start softening. We're going to go ahead and mix this up on both of these pans, and then I'm going to cover. It won't be too awful long till I add the bell pepper. Again, it's one of those things, to me, kind of trial and error. I don't know how to tell you to do this time length, this amount of portion. It's just sort of, however I look at it and go, yeah, that's probably about the right spot. In truth, I probably should have thrown the squash in a little bit earlier, but not by too much, and it'll be fine. I like crispy veggies anyway, so that's not breaking my heart any. This pan's a different shape, so it needs a little less heat. I'm going to add some more white wine to both of these. Not a lot, because once that eggplant starts breaking down, it's going to add a lot of moisture. What you're looking for out of the eggplant, and I know a lot of people don't like eggplant. I think most of the experience is from like eggplant parmesan. That's soggy, horrible. But what the deal is here is you're looking for it to be cooked down and starting to get a little bit mushy, but it's still holding form. Right? If perfect timing for this is when it's not quite looking like this anymore. It looks like a softened edges round off to cube. That would be like the perfect time to pull it. So let's hope we can hit it. All right, I'm going to put a little bit more wine in these, a little bit more oil, and then cover them up. All right, there we go. We're going to let it cook for a little while. The reason I changed the heat, this one's a little lower, is because you can see this one has a flat bottom on it, so it spreads the heat out a little more evenly, where this one has the curved bottom, so it puts a more direct heat straight upwards from the fire, where it's actually touching. Oh, tonight's wine is a yummy little, very light Spanish Albarino. It has a nice flavor to it, but it is just a little disappointing in texture. It's just too damn light for an Albarino. All right, so you can see the beautiful texture. Here's the squash really breaking down nicely right here. Some of it you can see, look how soft it's getting in the center, right? Some of the eggplant. That's probably one of the least cooked ones right there. Let's dig up a nice one here. Oh, there we go. Look at this beauty. See how it's changing color? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add the... I've had the lids off for a while, so it's cooked off some of the juice. We're probably about, what was it, 11:07 last time? So about 20 minutes is what it's been cooking. All right, so give you an idea of how long. This one's not cooking quite as evenly, but that's because it's a different kind of pan. But it is time to go ahead and throw those bell peppers on, and then to close the lids up and let them cook for maybe another 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm betting by then that at least this one is going to be perfect. Won't be too long, I think. And I'll be adding those back together, combining them in the big dish. See how fast the bell pepper actually cooks down. Yeah, so I'm watching Titanic on my tablet while I'm waiting on Netflix. So again, I have orange. We're just going to kind of spread it out amongst the two of them. Since I'm doing this one-handed, I'm not really pouring it. If I were to do this on a regular basis, I would have to figure out some cool little way to hold my camera up and everything. Again, I using the green pepper because I had a couple good green bell peppers. One of them was already cut open that I was using for breakfast the other day, and that's the only reason I'm really putting it in here. Generally speaking, I don't put green bell pepper in this. If I want a little greenage at the, in it, like for that green pizzazz, I will add a little chive or chopped green onion tops to it. The green onion tops, of course, let me switch this around. The green onion tops, of course, are going to give it that delicious flavor that I'm sure most of you know. Anybody who's a cook knows the flavor of that, and plus it gives you the nice color. But for right now, I had the green one open, and I figured, what the hell, I'll go ahead and chop it up and put it in there. I probably should have threw it in a little while earlier, because I don't mind if they get cooked up as much. Let me turn your beer. You don't want to see them. I have to look at my ugly ass. Here, this is starting to catch up now. Look at this. This is just, that's the eggplant. You can still see the lighter color right in the center. That's part that's not cooked yet, right? So, but it's getting there. This is the smaller pan, the round bottom pan. See a little of that bay leaf in there. The way I'm yammering on at this about the colors and the smells, I probably ought to run a damn cooking show. But I'll leave that to the people who are truly talented. I'm just a guy who's a good cook, not a chef by any stretch of the imagination. Plus, most of these guys, I'm pretty sure, don't have giant pretty puppies all over the place waiting for shit to fall off the stove so they can eat it. At least that's what Sadie's doing. Look at that. Oh, it's getting to the point now where I'm having a hard time even smelling it, because you know how your nose gets used to things. Oh, by the time those bell peppers soften up, this is going to be an absolutely perfect dish. I'll marry it all back together after I give it a good mix. Maybe add just, can you see it's starting to get a little dry in there. This one still has more moisture. Of course, this one is, you know, the eggplant didn't cook down as quickly in it as this one did. So that's why there's still a bit of moisture left, still a bit more moisture left in that one than there is in this one. Of course, if you have a nice big, true metal pan, the odds, you can use a nice metal spoon. These are, like the non-stick surface is actually built into the pan itself, so it's nothing that's going to scrape off, but you can scratch and damage and dent and scrape on them. So, and yes, I'm going to need to clean my stove. Look at, oh my God. I just can't wait to dig into this. I don't have any good bread with me yet. I'll have up tomorrow, but it's going to be so good. I'm going to definitely eat a little bit of it tonight, not much because it's late. And I'm just going to put the lids back on, and we're going to let that cook down for about another 10 minutes. It's 11:30 now, so around 11:40, 11:45, we'll pop those dudes back open and marry them together, mix them all up well, marry them together, and let them cook just a little bit more while they're all mixed together, and it's going to be amazing. Again, ratatouille is, it seems, it's your 20 minutes, 30 minutes worth of prep, cutting everything up. Once you get it going, a lot of the recipes that you look at, they do baking. All right, and it's not just because it's the pretty with the all even and it makes everything all the different colors, but it's because they like to bake because it saves on time. You're not spending as much time over the stove, which I actually like, being active on it and being able to taste, and I want a little more of this, I want a little more of that. So if you bake your vegetables first, it'll give it a nice caramelized flavor to the vegetables. And then if you throw them in the pan afterwards and cook them pan top, stove top, eventually if you give it till like the next day, you cook it up, throw it in the fridge and let it set, your flavors will open up and spread throughout everything. But I still I like cooking it stove top. It's my favorite way. I have baked. I've made it a number of different ways and just tried different things to really kind of perfect the way I like it. I mean, let's face it, I'm cooking for me. So, if other people like it too, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool as well. All right, I will see you in about, in moments to you, but about 10 minutes to me. All right, so I just consolidated everything, man. When I open those pans up and you have the smell of that crispness of the bell peppers with the tarragon, the rosemary, and the garlic. I'm sorry, the thyme, the rosemary, and the garlic. Wow. I'm betting that if somebody walked into this house right now, their nose would be straight up in the air like a pup sniffing for the scent. Just smells so good. So let's pop this dude open and show you what we've got. The bell peppers are just starting to soften up a little bit, and the eggplant is cooked almost perfectly. It might be just a hair past, but it's going to be delicious. And that, boys and girls, is ratatouille. Look at that. Oh my God. Switch this pan over. The rest of the stove's too hot. And there's salsa. He likes to lay right in front of the vent because it blows right on him when it's coming out. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Let me find a nice piece of eggplant. Look at how it's cooked up. See, it's just falling apart now. That is absolutely perfect. Look at this chunk right here. That is what eggplant is supposed to look like when it's cooked. Not a slimy mess like in those rookies are cooking the eggplant parmesan. I'm going to go ahead and kill this fire. And you can see it's still bubbling pretty hard. Oh, I wish I could pass this smell on to you. Amazing. So now I'm going to do something that annoys the hell out of me when I see the guys do it on TV. It's late, and if I eat too much of it, I'm not going to sleep well, but I am going to try this. So just to tell you, to do the whole, ooh, my cooking's so good, just got to try it, and it's, oh, damn, that eggplant is perfect. It still has some firmness to it, but it's nice and soft still, but great texture. When you cook it like this, it's not slimy at all. It's delicious. Ooh, the bell pepper still has crispness when you stick the fork into it. It's so hot. That's delicious. So anyway, for those of you who wanted to know how to make this and have asked me in the past, or who I've made it for in the past and wanted to know, here it is. I'm guessing that my brother's wife, my sister-in-law, Kristen Lee Daniels, is going to probably give this a try. She's an amazing baker, which is, of course, a scientist, but she's asked me a number of times in the past about cooking. Anybody else, if you have any questions, just give me a shout out. All right. Love y'all.